Okay, here we go. You know what time it is. This week, the grandest stage of them all, the granddaddy of them all. I think I'm messing up all the catchphrases and throwing them all together. The greatest spectacle in sports and entertainment. It is Wrestlemania week, and it's become a whole week-long thing now. It's no longer just one day. We've had Hall of Fame on Tuesday night. We had a 2-night NXT event, which was incredible. Great matches all the way around on that. And shoot, hang on. Wrong shirt. Okay, fixed it. Much better. So we've had Go Home Raw, we've had Go Home SmackDown. Everything is set. The stage is set. We are heading into a 2-night spectacular WrestleMania. April 10th, Saturday night, night 1. April 11th, Sunday night, night 2. Today on the vlog, we're going to preview both nights of WrestleMania. I'll give you my thoughts. Who's going to win all these spectacular, over-the-top, incredible feats of sports entertainment we call matches. I'm going to take water breaks in the middle of recording. That's the plan. So, flash back to last year. WrestleMania was about 2 weeks after the whole world shut down. There was a period of time where there was still talk. Are they going to be in Raymond James Stadium? Packed house, 80,000 people. What's going to happen? It kind of was clear they weren't going to be able to, but they held on for as long as they actually could, longer than most. And WWE was determined the show had to go on. There was no way they could stop making the show. They had to have WrestleMania. So they went to the Performance Center, their little training complex in Orlando. Retrofitted it with some designs, some signage, some stuff to make it a little bit better. Ran WrestleMania last year. No fans, no noise, quiet, bizarre show. Only highlight, really notable thing from it was the Boneyard match, a cinematic match between Undertaker and AJ Styles, which was pretty incredible, pretty fun to watch. But the rest of the show, the matches, no fans, no fake crowd noise, no nothing, just was weird, bizarre, and it was like a perfect snapshot of what the world was like at that point in time, because everything was bizarre, everything was weird, everything was out of the ordinary. They eventually figured some stuff out. They switched their tapings to what they described as a Thunderdome. They put up a bunch of video boards that showed like virtual fans. They added some pumped-in crowd noise, put a lot more lights, a lot more signage in there. Upped everything up really good, made it a whole lot better. And so that got them through the rest of the year. But now here we are, 1 year later, WrestleMania. For the first time since last year, they're actually going to have actual fans in attendance at Raymond James Stadium. I believe it's projected to be somewhere between 30 and 40,000 per night, which is about 30%, 35% of what the capacity probably would be, because stadium's about 67,000. They could probably put another 10-ish thousand on the floor, so they're probably looking at about a 70,000 capacity if they were at full capacity. But it's being projected they'll have about 30,000 or 40,000 per night. I'm a fan of the 2-night structure. I hope they keep this moving forward, because the last few WrestleManias before last year, where they were keeping everything on one night, way too much going on. It was like a 7-8 hour show. Dragged, was boring, was terrible. Just, it was hard to get through, and by the main events, you were just dead and not ready for it. But 2 nights, love the structure of it. Do think maybe because everything's still kind of a little wonky, they're still kind of working their way back up to normalcy. They didn't quite pull out all the stops like they normally would. There's no Brock Lesnar on this show. There's no other kind of legends or big-time part-timers that are coming in for matches. No Triple H match. Obviously Undertaker has pretty much said he's retired at this point in time, so there's nothing from him. But, there's Bad Bunny is having a celebrity match. I don't know if he's big or not. I wasn't familiar with him until he started doing stuff with WWE. Shane McMahon's got to come back and get himself killed in a match, but it's weird. It's kind of not quite a full-on WrestleMania feel, but let's go through the card. Let's look at the matches. Let's talk about what's going to happen. Night 1, and I don't know if these are in the order. I don't think these are in the order. I think these are just in generic order. I'm reading it right off Wikipedia, the most trusted resource in all of internet. All of the internet. Anyway, but there's been some speculation. Night 1, what's going to be the main event? Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's Championship on SmackDown, or is it going to be Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre? Could be either way. Vince McMahon typically changes his mind 100 times on stuff and makes the final decision maybe like 10 minutes before the show starts. So the list here has Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair as the top match. It's been well built up. Bianca Belair is a great athlete. She's been one of the first women to really emerge on the big stage in a way since the women's evolution started in that first kind of group of 4 with Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and obviously Sasha Banks. So Feels like this is obviously an opportunity for Sasha to kind of christen Bianca as the forebearer of the next generation of the women's evolution. You know, obviously Sasha's still great. She's probably one of the best overall performers in WWE. The match should be spectacular. They're both great athletes, both great performers. I expect Bianca Belair to come out with the SmackDown Women's Championship. Next up, the other potential main event, the co-main event we'll call it, Bobby Lashley with MVP versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre has been the WWE Champion for basically all of the last year. He was supposed to have his big coronation, his big, huge celebration moment at last year's WrestleMania. He was supposed to be 70,000 people screaming for him as he won the championship and became the new face of WWE. Instead, he won it over Brock Lesnar in an empty arena with nobody, and he had to pose like, hold on. He had to kind of like, he was posing like this, like I am, with just silence. I'm the champion, but nobody's here to care. At least I have Oli with me. Oli cares. Oli's really excited that I've got the Stone Cold Smoking Skull belt. Right, Oli? He said yes. So it would certainly seem they recently did a weird belt swap where The Miz essentially stole the belt from Drew McIntyre by cashing in Money in the Bank, only to immediately lose to Bobby Lashley, who's been killing people all year long. He's been the most protected person other than Drew McIntyre for the last year or so. Certainly seems like they're setting things back up for Drew McIntyre to win the title back, get his big christening coronation in front of the fans that he didn't get last year. But Bobby Lashley's been like the most over, one of the hottest superstars in the company. Feels too quick to take the title off him after only about a month, but at the same time, they've invested a lot in Drew McIntyre and making him one of the new faces of the company. So it feels like it's going to be Drew. It's going to be his big moment that he got robbed of last year. I'm going with Drew McIntyre in that match. Next up, this is a celebrity match I mentioned. We've got a tag team match. Bad Bunny, Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. Honestly, I couldn't care less. Damian Priest is pretty good. Bad Bunny has been like somewhat entertaining in his segments. Miz and John Morrison are fine. I mean, Miz, it's unbelievable that he was the WWE champion just like a few weeks ago, and now he's in this kind of joke match. But it'll be entertaining, I'm sure, because Damian Priest is good. Miz and Morrison are fine at what they do. Supposedly Bad Bunny's been in the training center just working his butt off to get ready for this, so it could be one of those things where a celebrity goes out and has a great match and is more entertaining than you expect. It's got to be Bad Bunny and Damian Priest winning, though. Tag team title match for Raw. New Day champions defending against AJ Styles and his monster heater, Omos, I think is how you say his name. Big, huge guy. Somewhat of a modern incarnation of Shawn Michaels and Diesel, the pairing of AJ Styles and Omos. Small, athletic, talented wrestler with big, lunk dude who might not be able to do too much. This is actually almost his debut match. He's only been out there as like a bodyguard, as like an extra heater for AJ Styles up to this point. Certainly seems like they'll win the tag team titles. I mean, Omos is one of those, just he's so huge, you know Vince McMahon's probably in love with him and can't wait to do more with him, so this is kind of the launching pad. Put the tag team titles on them. New Day have had him 100 times. They don't need to keep him here. AJ Styles and Omos probably going to win the tag team titles. Braun Strowman, Shane McMahon, steel cage match. This feud's been terrible. The whole build-up to it's been stupid. Braun Strowman actually has cut a few good promos, which have been surprising in it, but Shane McMahon stuff has all been dumb, and he needs to stop bringing it back, man. It's sad at this point. He's like me. He's like sweaty. He stumbles over his words. He runs out of breath cutting promos. That's not great. So he's inevitably going to like do something dangerous and crazy like he always does and kill himself, and Braun Strowman will probably win the match, because I don't know why you would have Shane McMahon beat Braun Strowman, but that's where we're at, because you probably need Braun Strowman set up to face somebody for a championship after this, so Braun Strowman wins. Cesaro, Seth Rollins. This is where splitting it into two nights gets a little interesting, because normally this match probably isn't on WrestleMania because it's just, there's nothing really to it. I mean, Cesaro's barely been pushed in ever. Seth Rollins, you know, he at times has been one of their top guys, but he's kind of slipped down the pole a little bit. I don't know if that's the way I say that, slipped down the pole. But they're both really good. I'm sure they'll have a spectacular match. It'll be really entertaining, but the whole feud has been based around the fact that Seth Rollins is mad that Cesaro gave him his little airplane spin thing, so there'll probably be a spot where Cesaro tries to break the record for the most airplane spins he's ever done in a match, but I don't know, unless they're planning on doing something with Cesaro going forward, which they never have, I would expect Seth to win this, but You know, because Seth could be the heel and waiting for whoever's a champion on the other side of WrestleMania. So, but maybe they're in one of those moods where they think they're going to do something with Cesaro and they give him the win here. I don't know. Last match that we have currently listed for Saturday night, Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooks and Mandy Rose versus the Riot Squad versus Natalya and Tamina. It's like a tag team turmoil match. The winner of this gets a shot at the women's tag team titles the next night of WrestleMania. I don't think any of these teams are going to win it. I think there's going to be a surprise team. I don't know who it's going to be, but that is typically what happens in matches like this at WrestleMania. When they have an announced match that's a bunch of, you know, mid-card to jobber level people, when you're looking at it going, man, none of these people are well set up to be challengers for the tag team titles, usually there's a surprise team that shows up and actually wins it. I think back to the very first WrestleMania that I watched live, WrestleMania 14, there was a big tag team battle royal where the winners were going to get a future title shot, and there's a bunch of people, nobody really special, and the final surprise entrant was the Legion of Doom with their new revamped stuff and Sunny as their mascot, as their manager. They won it, but their push kind of died right there. They didn't even win the tag team titles when they got a shot. But Charlotte's kind of been absent. Was out with COVID for a little while, but supposedly she's cleared now. Bayley's kind of been quiet, hasn't been doing much lately. Do they put them together? Do they put one of them with somebody else we don't even know coming? You know, Becky Lynch is bound to be returning sometime in the next, time. She had her baby a couple months back, so you would think her return is inevitable. Maybe not. Maybe it's too soon for her, but I mean, could be. You never know. But I feel like there's going to be a surprise team that shows up in that match and wins it. Maybe somebody from NXT. Although NXT has their own women's tag team titles now, so I don't know if they need anybody to make the jump up and do that. Who knows? All these matches be entertaining. That's the thing about it. Other than like the Strowman Shane McMahon match and the Bad Bunny Miz and Morrison. I mean, even that they'll find a way to smoke and mirrors that into being something entertaining. So I mean, you got to say it's a good card. WWE this is what they always get me at WrestleMania. I always think I'm done with WWE, and then they find a way to put on a great show at WrestleMania, and I'm like, all right, you got me for now. And then I hang around in and out, and by the next year WrestleMania, I'm almost done, and they get me back in. Once they get me out, they pull me back in, that type of thing. So that's night 1, April 10th, Saturday. Night 2, April 11th. We've got a card here looking like the main event on this one's pretty clearly going to be Roman Reigns, Edge, Daniel Bryan, triple threat match. Now, Edge won the Royal Rumble. He declared he was going to challenge Roman Reigns for the championship. It looked all set up to be a perfectly normal 1v1 match. But I think my best guess is WWE got nervous that because they haven't had fans in attendance in a year, they just didn't know what the fan reaction was going to be like. Some of Edge's promos, some of the stuff he was doing in the last couple of months weren't really well set up to make him a babyface you want to get behind to challenge Roman Reigns. So I think they inserted Daniel Bryan into this match, made it a triple threat match to make sure there was somebody in the match that the fans would be behind, that they wouldn't just crap all over this match if they didn't like either of the guys that were in it. Daniel Bryan has a history of this where he's not supposed to be in the main event, but then they realize how badly the fans might turn on the match if he's not in it, so they put him in it. I have a hard time seeing him winning it unless they're just like that afraid of a bad crowd reaction that they just give it to him to make sure the crowd reacts well. But if they do that, I would expect them to put the belt pretty quickly back on Edge or Roman Reigns shortly after WrestleMania. So, I kind of feel like they want to. I don't know. Reigns has been so good since he came back. Had this whole head of the table heel turn deal. It's hard to imagine. It's kind of the same thing as Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre. Both those guys probably are in a mix where they should be champion right now, so who are you going to pick? Roman, you shouldn't take the belt off him, but Edge has this whole storyline of he's coming back to win the belt he never lost. Daniel Bryan is going to be the huge babyface that the crowd's going to desperately want to win the match. What do you do here? That one's a tough one. I'm going to say Daniel Bryan, because I think if they put him in the match, they put him in the match because they were scared of the fan reaction. If they're scared of the fan reaction, they're going to have him win the belt to get the good fan reaction, and then when they're back in the Thunderdome with no fans, they can get the belt off and put him on whoever they really want it to be on for the foreseeable future. But I think Daniel Bryan wins this one. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. Seems pretty easy. They brought up, I would say it's pretty easy. They brought up Rhea Ripley. They're trying to restart her after she was pretty hot around this time last year, and they kind of killed her off. They had Charlotte beat her. They had then Io Shirai won the NXT Women's Championship and not Rhea Ripley. They kind of did some weird stuff with her throughout the year. Never really... She was like one of the most over women on the roster at this point last year. And she was in NXT. But this is her first main roster match. immediately into the championship picture. Asuka's had the belt for a while. It just makes sense you would want Rhea Ripley to continue to rise here, but I thought that's what they were doing with her last year, and they kind of killed it off. So who knows, but I think Asuka wins this one. The worst match, the worst thing on all of WrestleMania, The Fiend, which is Bray Wyatt's newish character. He's been doing it for a little over a year or so. It's Randy Orton. This feud's been terrible. It's the absolute worst of professional wrestling. It's the stuff like where if anybody comes in while you're watching it, it's exactly what people point to and go, oh, why do you like wrestling? Why would you like wrestling? This is the stuff that people think about when they talk about this. Randy Orton's been puking out black blood or something from his mouth at random times. The Fiend was burned alive in the ring and now has come back as he literally looks like a pile of crap. Like, I think they wanted to like make him into a costume where it looked like he was a burned alive man, but he looks like if the Michelin Man was made out of poop. That's what he looks like now. So he looks stupid. Alexa Bliss is in this thing where she's been possessed by the Fiend and she's kind of lost her mind, but she's also got mystical powers. It's terrible. And like Randy Orton and the Fiend have had a history of having awful, terrible matches at WrestleMania. They had one years ago where like the ring randomly turned into like worms and bugs and it was just awful. I don't know why they had these guys feud again. It's been going for like 6 months and it's been awful every step of the way. Hopefully this is the death of it. Hopefully this is the end of it. I think the Fiend has to win because Randy Orton's kind of won every step of the way. I mean, like I said, the last time they had a match, it ended with Randy Orton burning the Fiend alive. Like he was dead in the ring. Randy Orton poured gas all over him and set him on fire and burned him to death. So I think it would be the Fiend's turn to come back and get some revenge for that. I don't know who's supposed to be the good guy and the bad guy in this situation, but it sucks. I don't really care about it anyway. Big E defending the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews. Another match I'm not that into. I don't really like what they've been doing with Apollo Crews lately. His new kind of gimmick is weird. And I don't know why this match is even happening because Big E has beaten Apollo Crews like 3 straight times. So Apollo Crews has like no claim to being a challenger for the Intercontinental title other than he keeps attacking Big E after their matches, which makes Big E want to fight him again. Kind of makes Big E a stupid babyface that he keeps giving the guy that he's beaten 100 shots to beat him again, even though he keeps beating him. So with that logic, you would think Apollo Crews has to win. Why do this match a 5th time if Apollo Crews isn't going to finally win it? But WWE's weird. You never know what's going to happen. It felt like for a while they were like setting Big E up to kind of push him forward, kind of get him set up as a new big single star. So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily cut his legs out to have him lose this match, but if I was booking this, I'd have Big E win again and just keep rolling, because he's somebody that you could put up into the mix to be a challenger for one of the world titles by next WrestleMania. And like I said, I don't like what they're doing with Apollo Crews. I don't like his gimmick. He's a very talented dude. I think he could be doing a lot of stuff, but I don't like this gimmick, so I hope Big E wins and they keep rolling forward with him, but I kind of think if they're doing this match a 5th time, Apollo Crews has to win one, or he's like the worst heel ever who can't ever win a single match. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Logan Paul's going to be with Sami Zayn. I mean, these guys have had one of the most historic friendships, rivalries in all of wrestling. You know, most of it predates WWE back in the Kevin Steen versus El Generico days. It's kind of crazy that this is the first time they've ever met at WrestleMania because WWE has kind of teased and rekindled their rivalry friendship over the years. I think they were a tag team together at one of the WrestleManias, but I think this is the first time they've ever gone one-on-one at WrestleMania, which that's been an easy setup. They could have gone any time, and they're just now doing it, and they just kind of threw it together in the last couple of weeks, so it's kind of lame, but they have enough history built in that people can jump on it and get invested in it pretty quickly. They're both great, so they'll have a good match, but with Logan Paul being involved, I assume he's going to do something that's going to cost Sami Zayn the match, and Kevin Owens is going to win. So there you go with that. Riddle versus Sheamus. Both these guys are pretty solid, but the feud has been based around the fact that Sheamus broke Riddle's Razor scooter. Matt Riddle's very talented, but Vince McMahon likes to see him make jokes and do goofy things like ride around on a Razor scooter, so some weeks he's funny, some weeks he's not. They'll probably have a really good match, but it's based around a scooter, so it's kind of weird. It's for the United States Championship, which Matt Riddle holds. I would keep it on him. It's kind of similar to Big E. He's a guy who you want to keep going forward, keep building up. Sheamus, he's fine. You know, he's been on a bit of a losing streak, though, so I don't know if they want to give him a win to try to charge him up a little bit after kind of coming up in the losing end of a long feud with Drew McIntyre and then also losing to Lashley. But I'd keep the belt on Riddle here, but I could see them going the other way too. And the last one, we don't know what it's going to be. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, the defending women's tag team champions, going to face whoever wins that tag team turmoil match on night 1. Like I said, I think it's going to be a surprise team that we don't know about yet who wins the tag team turmoil match. I think whoever that team is wins the tag team titles because that's usually what WWE does with their booking. Whatever the big surprise, the big return is, they go all the way with them at least for, one night or whatever. And Nia and Shayna have had the belts forever. They've been building towards them eventually splitting because they're one of those tag teams where they're frenemies more than friends. So I think whoever the surprise team is that wins night 1, comes back, wins night 2, takes the women's tag team championships. Once again, outside of The Fiend and Randy Orton, all these matches will probably be good. I don't know, it's hard to say with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler because we don't know who they're facing, but these matches in and of themselves should all be good. Reigns, Edge, Bryan should be awesome. It'll be fun. It's definitely going to be worth watching. Interesting to note, WrestleMania is going to be on Peacock, which I think you can get free if you have Comcast as your cable provider. And I think it's only $4.99 if you don't, so $5 cheaper than it has been all this time on the WWE Network. But important to note, Peacock does not have start from live features. So like if you don't come in at the very start of WrestleMania, like used to be on the WWE Network, if you started watching it, like it started at 7 and you start watching at 7:30, you could go back to the start and watch from the start, and then you could fast forward through stuff and catch up. Not on Peacock. You can only jump in on live. The only way to go back and watch anything you'd missed would be when they post the replay. Sometimes the replays on Peacock, I can speak about this from Premier League matches. Sometimes they go up right away. There's been Manchester United games that I wanted to watch where the replay didn't go up to like 10 hours after the match happened. It's ridiculous. So you got to watch live if you want to make sure and keep up with what's going on with WrestleMania. Or if you don't care about some of the stuff that's on early, you can just like follow along on Twitter, and when the matches you want to see are coming on, you can jump in and start watching there. But that's our WrestleMania preview. It should be fun. I did do a live stream watch-along of WrestleMania last year. I don't know if I'm going to do that this year. I might, because I don't know what else I'll have better to do than live stream myself watching the granddaddy of them all, the greatest spectacle in sports entertainment. But if you're subscribed to the channel, you have the bell turned on with notification alerts set up. You'll get notified if I go live to do the WrestleMania watch-along. So keep your eyes peeled to the channel. If you follow me on Twitter or anything like that, I'll probably post something there too. Jelly beans from Easter. That's it.